WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. This is going to be a great one. This is a guy who's like local, and I should have had him out at Nacho Mama's or Chaucer for a crab cake. But you know what? I know Lamar Jackson doesn't think these agents do anything, but these guys are like really, really busy because I know them in the real world. This guy, if you run into him in the Wise markets locally someplace because he lives here in Baltimore, he's been my friend for a long, long time. I don't bug him much, but dude, if you came out and had a crab cake, I'd give you a Maryland Lottery scratch-off ticket. We get you up a window nation at 866-90Nation and our friends, and we would treat you with the respect that all agents in the National Football League should have this week, because everybody wants to be Lamar Jackson's agent. Chad Wiestling is here. He has been a friend of mine for a couple of decades, representing a variety of different kinds of players. Would probably at some point have sold his soul to have a quarterback like Lamar Jackson and said, I'd love to represent that kind of guy. Has that kind of guy in Josh Jacobs out of Alabama, now a franchise tag player. And we welcome him in from, do you have a bat phone there? I'm assuming like in your study, it's going to look like the Butler in Batman where there's a red phone that just rings off the hook on the agents during. I can't believe you made time for me during the tampering period. I'm really happy, Chad.
Yeah, no. Thank you for having me, Nestor. Do I have a bat phone? No, not really. Just my, I'm old school. I just have a basic one phone iPhone. So that's all that I have. And the good thing now, why I was able to fit this in, as I told you earlier, is that having a player that's franchise tagged, I really don't have a lot going on. I have, that's that franchise tag. Once they tag you as the player, it gives everybody more time. So the deadline is now July 17th. So, that's, with the franchise tag, same with Lamar. I mean, obviously the Ravens have until July 17th to renegotiate a deal or someone else to pick him up, sign him. But so there's a little bit of time here. So I have two other guys. One was restricted, who got tendered this morning by the Patriots, and I had another free agent that just re-signed with his previous team to a one-year deal with the Arizona Cardinals. So I'm just on kind of cruise control right now. So thank you for having me.
Well, listen, man, I would love to have you for a crab cake and just literally sit and talk at length about this, because I'm not beating you up at anything current or Lamar and who you represent. But let's just at base level talk about what you do and why it's important. And if my son were a young man that had the kind of talent that Lamar Jackson or any one of his ilk would have, why I need an agent, and why if you had a son or a daughter, you'd say, I had Lee Steinberg on. He's like, I don't represent myself.
Right,
You know what I mean? So
right.
I just want to put this into perspective for an educational, because everybody's an expert on agents this week, except you're really one of them. And I really want to hear what you do for young men and how fragile they are, and this week and getting tendered, and how important this is to them, their families, their future. This is bullshit on a transaction line to anybody out on a tweet. This is real life. This is real Jerry Maguire things that go on with these young men for you.
Right. No, absolutely. 100%. So, yeah, I mean, you asked, what do agents do? I can speak for myself, but also, there's a lot of good agents in this business. And there's some bad ones, obviously. And you always hear about the bad stuff, but there's a lot of good ones as well. But, we wear many hats, Nestor. It's basically when people ask me, hey, is it really like Jerry Maguire? I'll say, yeah, it is, minus the love story in my situation. But it is. It's very competitive. And you basically, I'm a full-time, I say this all the time, I'm a full-time babysitter, if that makes sense to the lay person. And that, as I said, I wear many hats, and that's anything from counselor to, obviously contract advisor. That's our official term. I mean, we're called agents, but to the, with the NFLPA, the Players Association, our title is contract advisor. So we are to advise these guys, and some guys want to listen and some guys don't. And we can only lead the horse to water. And when they get to the water and they don't want to drink, then the easy thing for them to do is fire us. And they go to someone else that will try to do the same thing. So it's a very competitive industry, very competitive business, Nestor. And, it's anything from, like I said, you get them early on. We recruit them in college, coming out of college. We do our homework. We have our connections. I've been, which is crazy. I've been in this business for 25 years.
I know you have. I mean,
Yeah.
we've gotten old together literally. We've known each other forever. And I don't,
Yeah.
and agents are behind the scene, and it's nice that you come on and you text Adam Schefter and say, my guy signed, whatever that is, but you try to lay low. I mean, even Rosenhaus, I mean, to some degree,
Right.
you're not the star of the operation, and you're so busy behind the scenes handling the affairs that
Right.
you just, you don't, and as you get older, you don't, it's a hard thing to do. It's a job. And I've told you this to your face and a million, I wouldn't have your job. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
God bless you, because I've tried to be in business with people like you and your football players. And I found it to be frighteningly impossible. I did a lot of radio shows here with players.
Right.
It's a really difficult thing that you do. I have a lot of respect for agents, and
Yeah.
and I want everyone else to have more respect for one, because everybody's in alignment that Lamar should have one.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny, like the us or we as agents a lot of times, we are behind the scenes. Some obviously want to be more in the spotlight than others. I'm the type of guy that, as you said, I'll be at the local supermarkets or bars or whatever. You won't even know who I am or what I do, because that's the way I like it. So my approach is, it's not about me, it's about my players. So that's my approach. That's, I tell them the first time I meet with them and their family, like, hey guys, you're the boss. As weird and crazy as that may sound, I'm telling a 21, 22, 23-year-old that, hey, you're the boss. I work for you. They kind of, can call the shots, and you build that trust, you build that relationship. But I'm my whole dynamic is, I like to stay in the background. It's not about me. I work for them and their family, and once again, wearing many hats. It's, can be from, obviously contract advisor to, father figure, to brother, to, counselor, to, you name it, to travel agent, which that kind of drives me nuts sometimes. But it's just anything that I'm asked to do or I need to do to make these young men's football career easier for them. That's kind of what we do. So,
Why do they pick you? I mean, seriously. I mean, you have a star running back. You're a guy from Baltimore, kid from Alabama. Why do they, when they pick an agent? What's the differentiator? Because, I mean, I've been to the Senior Bowl. I've been to these places. I mean, it's just there are a lot of you, and there are a lot of them, and they have a lot of choices.
Yeah, they do. They do. And it's comes down to building a relationship, and earning and gaining that trust. That's what I truly believe in. And I'll tell everybody, the first moment I meet them is that, hey, I'm not for everybody, and everybody's not for me. So it's kind of, by doing this for a long time, going on 25 years, I have gone through some riffraff. I've represented some guys I wish I didn't represent at the time, or looking back at it.
Well, your phone rings in the middle of the night, and you're like, "Oh my god!" Like, right?
Oh,
I mean,
Lester, I've had some shit, man. I've had guys where, guys that have
you
been,
did what? And what? Right? I mean,
yeah, yeah, you're getting calls from, state police. You're getting calls from, you name it. I had a player, several years ago that was actually killed. Jerry Brown. I don't know if you remember, from the Cowboys. Remember his teammate crashed the car and
yeah.
killed him. Yeah, I mean, that was my guy. Jerry Brown was. I got that. I was in Baltimore. I wasn't living here at the time. This is my home, but I've been several places. But I was in Baltimore, I remember, and I was staying downtown at the Sheraton actually, and got a call at probably 3 or 4 in the morning, and I picked it up, and they were like, "Hey, this is Chad Wiestling." I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Well, this is the Dallas Police Department, and
Oh,
is your client, and is your client Jerry Brown?" I was like, "Yeah." And so I'm thinking he got in trouble. I'm thinking, "Oh my goodness, he got in trouble." I was like, "No, he was killed." So there's some things that we've all, like I said, we've been in this business a long time. We probably have seen it, or been a part of a lot of stuff. So, but it's, why do they pick me, or why do they pick a specific agent? I think it really comes down to, like I said, just earning that trust, building that relationship with the player and the families. That's why we recruit them back whenever we can start recruiting them in college. And like I said, everybody's different. There's players out there that want to flash. They want to flash. They want, hey, what can you do for me? How much money can you give me, or how much gifts and stuff, and stuff can get me off the field. We're more worried about stuff off the field than what there are on the field. Then there's some players. I have a good history with, like, just good, like, hard-nosed football players, and guys that love the game, guys that are good enough to play on Sundays, guys that do it the right way, and and I build that relationship. And every once in a while I'll get a I've had a lot of players over the years, and every once in a while you get, this is my second franchise player now. Remember, I had Muhammad Wilkerson of the Jets, so who was a first round draft pick. And one thing that I tell everybody during this whole process, they're like, oh shoot, there's a lot of agents and so on. I'm like, and guys have done big deals, and I've done big deals. I've had guys drafted in every round, first rounders to seventh to undrafted free agents, but not everybody has done franchise tag deals because there's not a lot of them. So this is going to be my second one.
Well, you try to not get to that point to some degree, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you hope, once again, you're kind of at the the mercy of the team, rather, like, so
you're the mercy of the Players Association because they gave them the right to do this, right?
100%. Well, yeah, 100%. And that's what the teams use. That's what they'll tell you is like, hey, it's not us. This is a tool that's in the collective bargaining agreement, the CBA, that we're allowed to use.
It's just business, right? Yeah, I mean, Chad Wiestling is here. He is a Baltimorean who is a legit NFL agent. He's done this a long, long time. I don't bug him much. Sometimes he brings his players by. Radio Row went before they threw me out. So I wasn't at the Super Bowl this year. And I'm sort of reaching out. And so on the Lamar thing and just taking the franchise tag and the non-exclusive and what's predictive. I mean, you were telling your kid in Vegas, they're probably going to, I mean, everybody sort of knew what, and then there's not much you can do. In the case of Lamar without an agent, you're like, unprecedented. I've had this, I've had that. I've seen this. I don't know anybody's seen this. Former MVP, prime of his career, team seemingly not. And then the original sin of all of this, as you know better than anybody, it's owners against players association. It's suppressing salaries. It's taking the top guy and making his top not so high. And the Deshaun Watson outlier, and I know you'll hate that as an agent, outlier, wouldn't be a friggin' outlier if you were representing Lamar Jackson, I have a feeling, right? So give me what you see to your eyes and what you're willing to share with our audience in regard to a guy out there without an agent trying to do this week at the highest level, who doesn't know what he's doing, hasn't done what he's done, kind of fell in with the union a little bit, but more than anything, and you're a Baltimore guy, 4 years ago before the plague, when they're killing everybody and he's the MVP, it was big trust, big trust, big trust. It was Mark Ingram, big trust. It's amazing. The kid doesn't trust anyone, right? Like, and your first thing is, you have to trust me. I'm your agent. Well, I don't trust anybody. Well, that's a problem. And I think that this is a trust issue. I don't think he trusts Eric DeCosta either, and he probably shouldn't, and you would tell him not to. So this is a wild thing to watch. And I guess if you're ever going to teach one of those courses that Andrew Brandt teaches up, this is a case course, right? As to what this is. We don't know where this is going.
Right. No, absolutely. And I get asked this question a lot, especially over this past year and the past couple of weeks, obviously. And when I represent a player, Nestor, and even I'm doing that now with Josh Jacobs of the Raiders. I have my agent hat, and then I'll try to put on my GM hat. Try to understand why they're doing what they're doing, and it makes sense of it. So when people ask me about the Lamar situation, I'm like, hey, I don't fault the guy, as far as as you called it, the outlier, which teams are going to use. Everyone's going to say, oh, that's the outlier. And it's easy for them to say, oh, it's just the Cleveland Browns. It's the Cleveland Browns. They had to do that. It's the Cleveland Browns. And if you remember, they used to say that about the Raiders back in the day with Al Davis. Oh, it's the Oakland Raiders. It's Al Davis. He's, that's the outlier. He overpays for players. Well, he had to, for the most part, because the organization wasn't good. And if you ever been to the Coliseum in Oakland, players weren't willing to go out there and play because it was so old and decrepit. So, so that, they're going to use the Cleveland, the outlier thing, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Deshaun Watson got a fully guaranteed contract. It's what players have been fighting for for years. The unions had been fighting for it, to some extent, but
well, you want that as an agent, right?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm a former player too, Nestor. I mean, remember I played at University of Maryland and stuff. So, and it's funny. I was in this morning up at 7:30 a.m. getting an MRI because I need a shoulder replacement. So it's I'm getting surgeries now to fix my surgeries of 30 something years ago. But it's a rough game. My point is, it's a rough game. It's the old argument is, well, basketball is guaranteed, baseball is guaranteed. These other sport professional sport leagues, and why isn't football? Well, why isn't it is because the owners, as you said, stick together, and when it comes time to negotiate the a new CBA or an extension, the union will try to push for it. We'll try to fight for the players, because every player wants a fully guaranteed contract, but they're not going to get anywhere. They're not going to get anywhere with it. And the players settle, the player association settle, because they don't want to lose checks. They don't want to not play. And eventually, like I said, it's not nobody has ever given anyone of that magnitude deal a $230 million fully guaranteed deal. Now Kirk Cousins got one, what was that, 84 million, I think, a 3-year deal, 84, 85 million, which was really the first one that was fully guaranteed for a quarterback, but it wasn't 230 million that the Browns did.
Well, he franchised out for 2 years in order to do that too.
Oh yeah, he played the franchise game. That's like he was really also maybe one of the first guys to do that, where he did it right. I mean, he stood fast and got played the franchise tag game, and it worked in his favor. So Kirk Cousins, who once again, good quarterback, Nestor. I'm not I won't talk crap about anybody, but he's not. I don't think he's a superstar by any means, and he's made a lot of money. He's made a lot of money doing taking the approach that he did, playing the franchise tag game, and then getting a fully guaranteed contract of 84 million. 3 years with the Minnesota Vikings. So, like I said, with Lamar, I think that's where he's kind of headed. Whereas, hey, I'll just play the franchise tag game.
It cost him 20 million last year already, right?
Right. Yeah.
Probably going to cost him 10 to 15 million more this year.
Now that was his 5th-year option. So, this is the non-exclusive, which a lot of people were surprised that. Even myself, I thought for sure the Ravens were going to do the exclusive, because it's like all a team has to do is come in, give him a great deal, and fully guarantee it if they want it. If that's what he wants, someone can come fully guarantee it, and they just give up 2 first-round draft picks for him to the Ravens. So I ask you, if you have with all these subpar quarterbacks out there, and you have a dynamic player like Lamar Jackson. And an MVP, a former MVP, could be an MVP at any time. Is he worth 2 first-round draft picks? Absolutely. I'll answer that for you. Absolutely. So
can
now,
he make nice with the Ravens, and your experience with these young men? Because it certainly has felt like, and I have some evidence on my side that the team was unhappy with him this time last year when he's holding out of OTAs. I know that to be true then. And then I see all of the machinisms of everything that happened after the injury and the media, and he's going to come back, and they tell NFL Network he's coming back. You as an agent would have stepped in there and said, whoa, this is level 2, not bad. He didn't have. I shuddered for him when I saw what the team was doing to him to force him back onto the field when he's making a business decision, and then he doesn't show up on the sidelines in Cincinnati. If you were his agent, again, it doesn't look good for anybody. None of this has looked good for anybody. And now he's been given the lesser tag. Like, it feels like an invite to get rid of the kid and take a couple of picks because they didn't want to marry him.
Yeah, no, it's the way it looks. It's basically they're, listen, I know Coach Harbaugh. I worked with him in Philadelphia a long time ago, briefly. And so, I got a great relationship with Coach Harbs, and I truly believe he loves Lamar and wants him there, and who wouldn't? But where the agent comes in is just kind of what you were referring to, is all that the media jumps all which is crazy. It's obviously the world of football and sports and everything's different now than it was a long time ago. So with social
But
media,
you can control your message. You really can.
exactly. That's what, like I said, what I would do or what an agent would do is like, hey, we're going to take the heat for it. Like, instead of the player and everybody's reading the tweets and the posts and everyone's making assumptions of why he didn't show up or why this, why that. And an agent is that's part of my job. A lot of it's damage control or getting out in front of it. And I can release a statement to the media or to the team. I can talk to the team like, hey, everything's cool. He'll be there. Hey, first off, OTAs, you don't have to be there. It's not mandatory. Every team freaks out like they're pissed off because the player doesn't show up. They don't have to be there. That's in the CBA. Like I said, remember, the teams will use everything in the CBA to their advantage, but also on the other side,
well, when a player does, he has a black hat.
That's like, oh my God, how can he miss OTAs? Well, he doesn't have to be there. He doesn't. It's not required. That's like with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, the last couple of years, just like, I'm not showing up. Well, he can because he knows the offense. He knows the.
But there is something that you would say to one of these young men, like, look, you're kicking him in the nuts if you don't show up at OTA, and then you want me to go back and get $200 million in the fall. You're pissing off the coach. You're pissing off teammates. They're out there working. You're on Twitter being a jackwagon while they're working. Right. And like, hey, dude, like, cut that out.
Yeah,
or don't do that. And if they trust you, they'll listen to you.
Yeah, and it's an expectation as your quarterback and your leader, obviously, to be there. to be the leader, be the guy in the locker room, be the guy in the team house. So I get all that. Like,
to those we pay the most, we expect the most. Imagine that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I think it has to be tough for the Ravens. I'm putting on my GM hat. It has to be tough for them to, like even during the season, you're not getting much discussions going. When your quarterback's out practicing, and he's playing from, he's got practice and every day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Like, when are you going to have a chance to sit down and talk to him? When are you going to have a chance to sit down and have these discussions with him about an extent?
All you're worried about is beating the team in front of you once the thing starts. I mean, we all know that 7-day life cycle and how hard it is.
Right. Yeah. So, like I said, that's where an agent will, be talking to the, salary cap guy or the GM, where Harbaugh and the coaching staff are preparing for the, on the field for the team, the next opponent, and your quarterback, your players are out there playing, preparing for the next, opponent. So that's where, like I said, the agent comes in where, once again, hopefully gives you good advice of what to do, what not to do, and let the agent do the, kind of, negotiate with the team, talk to the teams, see where it's at. And I'll communicate with the players, like I never hide anything from the players. I'm totally transparent. But it's, you don't want to be a player, and it's, it's human nature, Nestor, where players will, it's easy to say, oh, I'm just worried about the next game. But, you got to be thinking, if you're up for a big deal or you're up for as a free agent or you're in your contract year, you got to go. You're going out there and you're playing. You're giving everything you got. But it's, heaven forbid you get hurt. Heaven forbid something happens, and then all of a sudden, what you've been working for and dreaming about your whole life, can spiral out of control just because of an injury. So it's kind of and what my point with that is, you try to. The players, what I'm saying, like, oh, I'm not worried about it. I'm just worried about my next opponent. I'm just going to take care of business on the field. Well, yes, but I found over the years it's still human nature. And then the players are calling me that night. Hey, have you talked to him? What's going on? It's like, okay, I know that you're taking care of business on the field, which you should, but it's human nature. You want to know what's going on. Are you making any progress? What are they saying? This, that, whatever.
My family's asking me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Trust me. There's a lot of family in this business that are asking questions. So 100%.
Well, Chad Wiesling's here. He represents National Football League players. He's like a real agent. He lives here in Baltimore. He's been my friend for a long, long time. So I would just say this to you. You've represented well over 100 clients in the National Football League. Some of them smarter than others. Some of them, needed help in a lot of different ways. We can point all that out. Taking the mean or the average or even the smartest kid in the Wiestling school and say, if that guy represented himself and he were the best quarterback in the sport and was out on his own, how in the hell would this work where Lamar's going to, at 4 o'clock on a Wednesday, like, does he pick up the phone and call the switchboard and ask for Mr. Big? How does Mr. Big get to him? This isn't a negotiation between him and a general manager. This is a negotiation between him and an owner. So, like, without a you and a team of you, because, I mean, this might give you the opportunity to kiss everybody's ass in your circle because you have assistants, lawyers, people. You have a team of people. It's not just Chad and Josh James. It's a team. Like, you got nothing. Like, I don't know how this even happens, Chad. And I'm wondering, as a guy that spent your whole life doing this, that somebody would just say, nah, I'll cut out the middleman. I'll just go talk to Steve Ross myself. Like, all of this doesn't make sense to a media guy. I can't imagine it makes sense to people in your industry.
Yeah, it doesn't. Like I said, just to take all the heat, not just a little bit, all the heat off of him, where he can just, concentrate on playing football. It just doesn't, and a player of that magnitude, it just doesn't make, it makes you kind of, it's a head scratcher of like, hey, it could be so much better for you and easier for you.
And more profitable. More profitable.
Exactly.
If he had hired you and the Ravens, like, literally, you would have had a deal for him. He'd have more money in the bank. He'd be sleeping well. He'd be on the beach, getting married, doing whatever he wanted to do, making babies, having fun, shoe deals. Like, he hasn't had any of that stuff. I mean, I think of what Robert Griffin and what Baker Mayfield and these guys that never, quite frankly, accomplish anything and still have loads of money from their Subway commercials or whatever it is. And they put money in the bank that Lamar has. He's already $20 million to the bad right now for having played last year.
Right.
Yeah. I just, it's a sad story to me, but to your point, Dan Snyder gives him $240 million on Friday. He winds up really having game this if he wins, right?
Yeah. And it really comes down, as I started to talk about, I get asked this question a lot, especially in the last, few months and several weeks. It's, you're pressing so much on the fully guaranteed deal, which I understand what he's doing. Like, I understand. And trust me, as you mentioned earlier, the union's helping him now. Like, he's not out here by himself. I'm going to tell you, like, the Players Association, or, as you know, D. Marie Smith suing the league for collusion. All these teams which they are, they collude every year. Whether they're talking to each other saying, I don't have proof of this, but don't guarantee these deals. Like, don't.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I saw Bisciotti walking around the pool last year and was like fuming that he wasn't going to do it. I'm not going to be the guy. I'm not going to be the guy. I don't care who it is. It could be Cal Ripken and Babe Ruth and Vince Lombardi. I'm not doing it. That's it.
Yeah. Because once you do it for one person, everyone's got, like I said, it's a domino effect. So, if Mr. Bisciotti does it for one player, then the next superstar is going to do it, and the next superstar is going to do it, and it's going to happen everywhere. So
I've been watching sports for 50 years. That's the way it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So
it's all you dirty agents. It's all your fault.
Hey, it's not our fault on Lamar because we don't have anything to do with it. So I don't understand. Like I said, I understand what he's trying to do, and he has every right to do that. I'm with him on that. I mean, like I said, he is. We all know the story of Deshaun Watson, who, is a good player, but he's not Lamar Jackson. He's not a former MVP. Lamar's not getting in any trouble. It makes all the sense in the world, where it, and I just have read reports, Nestor, of how much money the Ravens have offered and fully guaranteed being up like 130 or even more.
And Lamar's laughing about it on Twitter and tweeting out.
Yeah. So where it comes, once again, where putting my other hat on, my GM hat is, it's kind of like, hey, we're offering him a lot of money now. Life changing. I mean, $20 million is what he just made is life changing. I mean, as soon as you get drafted higher, it's life changing. But when they're offering that type of money, what is the threshold, or what is going to make you really sit down and consider it and think about it? And that, and I deal with that with teams all the time with players. It's like, hey, if you I will always talk to my players. I will be transparent. I will tell them every offer, every point of our negotiation, whether they like it, whether they want to hear it or not. And a lot of times they don't, and they get pissed off, and they're like, "Don't kill the messenger. Don't get pissed off at me. I'm telling you, this is what they've offered, or whatever." But at some point, you're hoping the team can give you something, or between negotiations, that you got to give me something to least we can think about. At least we can sit down and have a conversation about it. If you're just, trying to get, like I said, still a lot of money, but if you're trying to nickel and dime us, it's not even worth the conversation. We're not even the same ballpark. Give us something that we got, and once again, is 130 million guaranteed? Is that something to sit down and have a conversation over? I would think so.
You've never had one of those conversations. You'd love to have one.
I'd love to have one. Hell yeah, that'd be great.
And you take 1%, I bet of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Chad Wiestling is here. Well, I hope Lamar calls you or somebody like you at some point. And this, from a structural standpoint, for everybody in the industry, not just media schlubs or former media schlubs like me or guys like you, this is really uncharted. This is going to be an interesting couple of weeks for Lamar and for the organization, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, the fact, it's already been out in the media, and as far as soon as the Ravens put the non-exclusive tag on him, wasn't it funny how right away, instantly teams were, "Oh, we're out. We're not interested. We're not interested." Like how can you not be interested? If you're a team out there that needs a quarterback, like, it makes you think, like, how could you not be interested in Lamar Jackson? Like, that's where people are assuming that there's collusion. They want it out there right away that we're not in the market. And I think, like I said, the Ravens are taking a chance, and I think they did their homework, obviously, whether it's collusion or not. They did their homework to know that it's not, we're betting that no one's going to offer him, a fully guaranteed deal or a deal that we can't match. We're, instead of paying him $45 million, which would have been the exclusive tag number, and we only got to pay him 32.5, which is the non-exclusive quarterback number. And then you got to remember also, that number, it's a 1-year guaranteed deal. So that number hits your cap right away. So, $45 million to hit your cap, that's a lot of money to be carrying on your cap for one player for 1 year. Now, when you do long-term deals, they can prorate the signing bonus and stuff. And that's why you see players always restructured, or teams that are always restructuring their players, because they got to create cap space.
Well, that's another issue with Lamar, and you've just taken us down into a major agent rabbit hole, which is, we're going to sign this kid, and then we need to restructure. Deshaun Watson restructured 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Who do we call? Oh, we call Lamar's mother, or we call Lamar and bring him in and say, give money back. Oh my God. Like, right? I mean, so that
they're not technically giving money back. What they're doing is they're just pushing the money down the road. So if the money, for example, if the money is, let's say, for basic math, if he's guaranteed $20 million for this year and that's hitting the cap, well, hey, we'll give you, we'll turn that, $15 million into, pay you now as a signing bonus or a roster bonus. Okay, so now we can, and say there's 3 years left on the deal. Well, we can prorate $5 million over each of the next 3 years. So now their cap numbers come down. So instead of $20 million, now it's down to, like 5. They can kind of get it down to, with whatever his base salary is. Let's say $6 million.
But it takes cooperation in an agent to do that.
Oh yeah. It takes so it takes somebody.
Your phone rings when they want to do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So they're basically just moving the money down the road, but they're giving the player instant cash right now in form of a bonus, so they can prorate it. So that's when you see the guys restructuring. That's why they're doing it, to create cap space so the teams can go out and sign other players.
You're a wealth of information. I owe you a crab cake and an adult beverage at some point here. I'll even give you a Maryland lottery scratch-off ticket. We get together at some point up in Highlandtown or Canton or
Only if it's winner. Can you guarantee I'm going to win something?
If the Ravens can't guarantee their MVP money, how am I going to guarantee you a winning lottery ticket, Chad?
Great point.
Chad Wiestling is here. He is a local super agent to the Stars and has a franchise player with the Las Vegas Raiders, who I hope is doing well. And hey, sit back, relax a little bit. Your guy's franchised. You get to watch all this other madness happening out there.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. That's kind of what I've been doing.
Well, I would say congratulations because you introduced me to that young man at the Super Bowl 4 or 5 years ago. I had seen him play at Alabama, national championships with Nick Saban, all that stuff. And, to have him franchise is a hell of a thing, right? I mean, it really speaks to what kind of player he's been.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's like I said, the franchise tag it's a tool that the teams can use, and you either love it or you hate it. Whoever players they don't want to be tagged. It's a but it's also, if you can look at it, it's almost like an honor. Like, hey, shoot, only the teams can only do it one player, one player per team, and not a lot of guys get franchised. Not a lot of teams like always use their tag. So,
and you are up for a raise when they franchise you. I mean,
oh yeah,
like
it doesn't mean the point is it just gives you more time. So that's why, as you said, I don't necessarily have my feet kicked up, but I could, because the deadline for, even with Lamar, the deadline is July 17th. I think I mentioned that early on. It's July 17th. So it gives the team the luxury of signing other players. So like right now, free agency will start tomorrow, but of course the deals have been rolling in the past 2 days. And on the 17th, that's the deadline. So it gives us more time. The dust settles, the players are either cut or signed, the draft is it has taken place. Maybe there'll be a few more if they need money, a few more restructures. But then it gives us time to continue to talk and continue to do a long-term deal for that player. Now, a lot of times it does get done at the deadline, July-ish or whatever, but then there's some good players that it doesn't. And like Jesse Bates from the Bengals last year, he didn't get a deal done and played on his 1 year, played on his tag number with the Bengals, and he just signed a big deal with, I think, with the Falcons. Or agreed to a deal. It's not official yet, but agreed to a deal with the Falcons.
allegedly.
Exactly. So, like I said, and what you hope on that is, the player has, and once again, even I'm sure Lamar does. I hope he has a disability insurance policy. I'm sure he does, but these are the things like that an agent and their team make sure are in place, because the last thing you want to be doing is playing that year on a franchise tag and go out and something catastrophic happen, and you just missed a lot. You just lost ability to make a lot more money.
We wondered out loud about Lloyd's of London last year and Lamar Jackson and playing on $23 million. Chad, I know your time's short, man. I appreciate you tampering with us here at Baltimore Positive. I know you only come on special occasions, and we have big stories here, but I do hope we get a crab cake and talk more about the industry. And I think this whole situation has shed a light on, what do these agents do anyway, and whatever. So over a crab cake and a beer, when things are a little more quiet, maybe we'll get together in the summer and do that, all right?
Yeah, would love to. Absolutely.
Appreciate Chad Wiestling joining us here. If you see him in Canton or Upper Fells Point, yep, that's him. He's Josh Jacobs' guy. And I tried this week to at least educate folks around here as to what's going on and what these real Jerry Maguire types do. I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking. Baltimore Positive.